So I was watching YouTube the other day, just browsing videos, mostly TF2 as I normally do, and I came across a video that I honestly never thought I'd see before. As I was scrolling down trying to find something interesting to watch, I came across TF2, Stop Disguising as Scout, a video made by a YouTuber I'd never even heard before by the name of H Trademark. It was on a topic that I always want to talk about, but well, nobody ever really gives a shit, so it's mostly just me finding an excuse to slide it in. The most I ever hear about spies disguising as Scout is someone pretty much just restating Soundsmith.
First, we've got this guy. I don't think he's quite figured out that his cunning and masterful plan of disguise as Scout and run straight at the entire enemy team isn't really fooling anyone.
But there's so many misconceptions about spy that non-spy mains don't know, and surprisingly, the majority of them are with disguises. So I reached out to H Trademark asking if I could make a video about this concept using his video as a backboard or something. An example, yeah, as an example. And don't think this video is me flaming him or calling him out, like, for being stupid or anything. He was actually really chill, like, chill as fuck. I got COVID the day after asking if he'd be alright with this, and he was super understanding. And so kudos to him, he's cool. As far as I know. I don't know, maybe I'm endorsing a serial killer. Either way, go watch his video for yourself if you haven't already, and if you have, or you don't care, the rest of this video will be me going over the points he makes in his videos, and maybe I can help shed some light on why so many spies do this. The first reason he gives is the one that I hear talked about most by players, and that's this.
Now by far, I'd say that the main reason spies do this is to trick and bypass enemy snipers. See, when you're disguised as Scout, your head hitbox will be in the same spot it always is, but Scout's hunched over model makes the head hitbox look like it'd be here, when in reality, it's actually here. So if you're going around taking out important targets and a sniper happens to spot you from the backlines, taking you out with a quick headshot becomes slightly more difficult since your actual head is invisible and offset from where the sniper would expect it to be. This is also true for most of the classes you can disguise as, but when choosing Scout, it's the most exaggerated difference.
And while yes, everything he just said about how that works is true, probably, much like the popular sentiment of disguises don't fool good players, Scout disguises don't fool snipers, except this time it's actually true. Almost any sniper with 100 or so hours on him knows this, and even though Scout's head is the furthest away from Spy's head, visually speaking, it's very easy to guess, as you pretty much just gotta remember above the shoulders. Granted, he does say that it doesn't fool really good snipers, but you don't gotta be fat magic to headshot spies. I also never see this used as advice in any get better at spy video, but that could just be me because I haven't found a video with it. Maybe they're out there. The next reason he offers is that it's easy to do quickly.
The other main reason I see so many spies doing this is probably just because from a gameplay perspective, disguising as Scout is super easy. Since the 1 through 4 keys are the closest to your WASD, and since the 1 key signifies Scout's disguise, that one in particular is the easiest disguise to execute, since all you have to do is press 4 and then 1. If you're using the concise disguise kit, then it's just 4, then 1 again. If you ask me, this is way easier than looking across your keyboard to find the one specific disguise you want, and even with the concise disguise function, I think just quickly tapping the 1 key twice is the easiest muscle memory. So in this regard, it does make sense to disguise as Scout, since the effort needed to do so is the least demanding of all the classes, at least in my opinion.
This is also true. It is definitely very easy, and of the 4 possible classes of that row, it's the only one that doesn't slow you down, as he mentions later. But there's more to it than that, and I'll explain here in a second. Also, minus points for making me have to think about this. Next, he says a small flurry of reasons that I'll go over, but it actually contains the most significant reason, which is funny because it's in the section of tucked away things at the end of the segment. Allow me to go over them one by one.
And it's not just the seemingly offset hitbox and rapid key inputs that make Scout such a good disguise target. There are actually a few other benefits to disguising as Scout, like being able to hide behind cover more easily.
This one is important, we'll come back to it.
Appearing as a less suspicious heal target.
This one I've never heard of before, and I don't think it plays too much into this, but again, I'm unfamiliar with the idea, so maybe it holds more merit than I'm giving it credit for.
Keeping spies base movement speed.
This is true, but, and as the video says, Spy and Medic also keep your speed, which is why I alternate between the 3. Before we delve into the issues he has with disguising as Scout, let's rewind for a second. Back to that point that I called important, being able to hide behind cover more easily. We're all aware of that one example of this, right? PL Thunder Mountain up the first bridge behind this plank. Well, there's a deeper reasoning to that. Scout being small isn't just good for staying out of sight, it's good for staying out of mind. Hear it from Stabby Stabby, the best spy main.
I choose Scout because it's the smallest visible hitbox too. You poke out of less things, it's easier to hide, and you're just slightly less visible than you are with any other disguise.
There's a way to sell disguises no matter the class, and while it definitely works well with slower classes, in my case usually Demo is the one that convinces people the most consistently, Scout being small and very visually quiet can be very convincing, even if the enemy team doesn't even have a Scout. There are two key factors of this: acting like a player, not a class, and being in the background. What sets good spies and bad spies apart in terms of disguises is who acts like the class they disguise as. When you choose a disguise, are you trying to act like that class? Yes? Well, you're wrong! Mostly. I mean, obviously it'd do you good to stay on a sight line if you're sniper, or rolled out your melee as engineer or spy, but the point still stands. When I say act like a good player, I mean do things that you do as other classes. Like, for example, backpedaling or looking at the enemy team. There's plenty of niches, but it all boils down to just do shit that other people do. Two more really good strategies I employ is speed masking and spy checking. Speed masking is actually a strat that I only use for scout disguises. It's when I disguise my only giveaway as scout, my obviously slower movement speed, by doing scout things. B-hopping is very hit or miss since better spies B-hop a lot anyway, and good players know that, but at the same time it can occasionally help with a scout disguise. My favourite though is rapidly switching between A and D and doing figure 8s, as these are movement patterns a lot of scouts use when engaging in fights. My other tip is spy checking, and I don't mean switching to pyro. I mean if the enemy is aware that a spy is around here, if at any point you feel like someone's gonna check you, look to enemies or pretend you got bumped, pull out your melee as your disguise, and begin calling out for spies and spy checking. It's not going to save you every single time, and a good player may catch on, but when spaced out, this technique has saved me tens of times in one match. Here, take this clip I got the same day as writing this script. I decloak loudly behind these snipers, and they don't hear it because they're snipers, and I begin walking up to the point. This sniper, however, sees me, and I see that he sees me, so I immediately start strafing left and right, looking at where the danger would be if I were blue, and when I see my pyro over there, I kinda look at him and pull my gun out as my disguise. Now, a spy standing on an empty point that his team already owns, away from all the possible stabs, is a very not spy thing to do. However, because I'm moving like a player, I'm pulling out my gun to aim at an enemy just in case, the sniper stops carrying at me and instead focuses another spy, allowing me to get a stab on him. And this isn't just a random advice segment. These kinds of things add up to the second factor of what makes scout disguises, as well as many other disguises, work: being in the background. Simply put, it's a way to be out of focus even if you're in sight. TF2 players, all of them, including me, focus on what's in front of them. And you may be saying, but I use my peripherals and I see things out of the corner of my eyes. Yes, I do too. But we see the obvious things. Let's just say you probably notice really obvious scout disguises a lot, and you can remember that. But you can't remember what you've never noticed. And all the good spies that make scout disguises work seem to be mostly non-existent to you, as you never noticed they were the scout in the corner of your eye in the first place. Of course, you can remember all the dumb spies that can't pull it off, but if they pull it off, how are you supposed to remember what you never saw? I'll refer to these points more in this video, which is why I chose to define them now. On to the next section. Actually, quick intermission, I actually been watching this video and going over my notes while writing the script, and got recommended his follow-up video coming out 8 hours ago at the time of writing this, so I will be sure not to mention anything he fixed, but I will still shed light on things that still weren't mentioned. Anyway, now actually on to the next section. First off, he says that Scout is very obvious.
See, everything I said about the benefits of disguising as Scout is true, but the fact that you keep your base movement speed even when disguised as Scout makes your disguise, let's say, a bit more than obvious?
But, as Solarlight himself mentioned, which he highlights in the follow-up video, is only obvious if you're looking at the Scout. As I explained, there's plenty of ways to make a Scout disguise work, and a lot of it has to do with universal disguise tips rather than anything specifically about Scout. I guarantee you that you don't notice scout disguises way more than you think, but of course, you can't recall what you never noticed.
But hey, if your team recognizes that a scout on your team is a spy, they'll just shoot at him and the problem will be a thing of the past, right? Well, that's where my hatred towards these scout spies comes into play. No matter how obvious it is to me that a scout is in fact a spy, my team never seems to do anything about it. I really don't know what it is. It could just be me being horribly unlucky or the state of the round being so intense and requiring my team's whole undivided attention, but the second I see a spy disguised as scout, no one on my team seems to notice him until they either get backstabbed or spot him on the respawn cam between lives.
These players that don't seem to notice the scout spy is you. You are probably those people, because I once again wholeheartedly believe that these people have the exact same view on scout disguises as you do. And when you get stabbed by a spy that was disguised as a scout, this is probably what you look like to the one guy who noticed that spy before he got you. And this isn't an insult, I'm not calling him or any of you dumb. This is just proof showing that scout disguises can go completely unnoticed with the right technique, even if scout is technically the most obvious disguise.
But what could also be happening here is that my team does recognize that one of our scouts is a spy, yet everybody thinks that someone else is gonna do something to take them out. Man, you gotta love the bystander effect.
I personally never see this, as most players I see that know there's a spy usually drop most if not everything they're doing to kill them, especially when that spy is me. But again, I can't remember what I haven't noticed.
And for the love of God, if your friendly scouts are using the Babyface's blaster, be even more mindful of spies than ever. Seriously, it's like there's a hidden stat on there that says, makes you look like an enemy spy. Speaking of which, the fact that you lose your boost on double jumps with the BFB means that scouts who do want to keep their boost will just avoid double jumping in most situations, making them look even more like a spy since, hey, spy can't double jump. Which ironically is one of the only times I see my teammates actively spy checking scouts when they're not a spy.
I never think this, as most of the time when you see a Babyface Blaster scout, he probably has boost already, and I rarely ever see a Babyface Blaster scout get spy checked, but I also rarely see Babyface Blaster scouts at all, so fair enough.
Why do spies do this? Because I know it can't just be to gain the benefits I talked about earlier. Like, do they think disguising a scout is clever? Do they think they're outsmarting my team or something?
No, this is actually one of the biggest misconceptions that I see, and it's that everyone thinks that spies disguise to fool you. They use their disguise to be undetectable or outsmart you or whatever. This just isn't true. Good spies fool players via actions, not looks. Way too often I hear or see things in chat like, we don't even have a medic, why are you disguised as one? Because even an all-stock scout disguise can go undetected if the spy is good enough and acts his disguise based on what's going on around him, more so than who he's actually disguised as.
I sure as hell don't see a scout walking like this and think, oh hey, that's my scout alright.
Nobody does. There's a really big point to make about disguises that involve all of this being in the background and acting like a player bullshit, and it's what makes choosing any class and walking directly at the enemy work every now and then, and that's this one principle. An all-stock scout with the scattergun out, the default disguise weapon, running really slowly and straight at the enemy is still more convincing than an undisguised spy running straight at the enemy.
But you know, there is a certain loadout that these spies usually run, and it tends to tip my frustration over the edge. The Conniver's Kunai and the Dead Ringer.
Oh, fuck. Choose your next words very carefully, if the rest of this video is just gonna be a rant.
The Kunai is notorious for skirting the line of being overpowered.
There it is, I knew it, I knew he'd say it. This is one of the things I hate to hear the most, and this isn't even the point of his video, but he added it in, so I'm gonna vent 1,200 hours of pent-up frustration. That sentence was gross. Everyone seems to think that the Kunai is overpowered, but it's because of a psychological effect called negativity bias. You always remember the conniving, kunai-containing cunt destroying your old team, but you never remember the kunai spies that you one-shot, accidentally kill, and so on, because your brain doesn't hold on to that bit. If I had a nickel for every time I tried to backstab a soldier, but they rocket jump right when I'm about to do it, and kill me accidentally because I'm at 70 fucking health, I'd buy a lap dance from your mum. And the overrule that everyone complains about, oh, a spy shouldn't be able to have more health than a soldier, as if that's my permanent health. I mean, Christ, half the time I get a stab or a chain, all of my overrule is gone, sucking up the damage of me trying to leave the situation. And until random crits are gone, I'm not advocating for that overall max health to be lowered a single point.
But that's largely due to its ability to farm health off your teammates, something you have very little control over unless you just outright kill the spy. But hey, that's made even more difficult thanks to the Dead Ringer, since the ability to feign your death means that spies can more safely go after backstabs.
I'm sorry, I know that none of this video was to be taken as me insulting anybody, but I have to say it. Unless you're in a really cramped situation and can't physically go hunt down the spy, skill issue. The Dead Ringer is way weaker than non-spy players think it is. Again, negativity bias. The Dead Ringer is the easiest watch to track out of the 3 watches. The Invis watch is in the middle of there. Pyros can track it down pretty easily, but all the other classes could struggle against good players. Good spies change up their movement direction every flicker, and they have the potential to grab ammo kits while cloaked to stay invisible to you. The Cloak and Dagger is even better at this, since although it can't pick up cloak, if you find a spot where they won't check, or where they already did check, you can just stand still and watch as they struggle to find you. You will never, this kind of shit even evades Pyros, as there's no, oh, I'll wait for him to run out aspect, because it won't run out. The Dead Ringer, however, is by miles the easiest watch to track. Its current cloak gets cut in half when it's triggered. Its speed boost and afterburn immunity are negligible if you see where the spy went when he cloaked. And you know that he can't pick up ammo, so all you gotta do is keep on him, and if you happen to lose him, don't worry, he'll decloak loud as shit here in a couple seconds. The Dead Ringer is also very map and server specific, favoring large-scale open maps with many walkable routes to take, because it thrives when there's ways to get behind the enemy without having to trigger it. Yeah, sure, you can brute force your way in with it, but then you have to decloak loudly and wait for it to fill up completely again. And since good players can track Dead Ringer spies very, very easily, there's certain servers in which using the Dead Ringer is worse for you than using Stalker, Cloak and Dagger. In fact, a lot of really good spies, myself included, although I'm not trying to brag, I'm just saying I also do this, use all 3 cloaks pretty equally, and will agree that using the Dead Ringer all the time is not the optimal strategy. Not necessarily a point he might have, but it's an argument that I get a lot and one that needs to be invalidated.
Huh, it's almost like a weapon that gives you health on kill, plus an item that gives you a get out of jail free card from dying.
It's not. It's really not. Don't get me wrong, back in the Doctor and Forcicle days where it tanked fucking backstabs, yes it was, but it really isn't anymore, being, as I said, the easiest watch to track. If this is a get out of jail free card, then any enemy around you is a shitty probation officer because they will just find you and gank you again. It's not hard to fight, it's annoying to fight, which is very, very different.
Now, despite how powerful this combo can be in most servers, especially those with bad or unaware players, you could argue that Spy's Disguise Kit isn't the greatest, and most players aren't fooled by it anymore, which honestly I do agree with to an extent.
This is an issue with the disproportion between good and bad spies. Think of it like this chart. Good spies can stab good and bad players don't notice good or bad spies, but good players notice bad spies, and only good spies aren't noticed by good players, and there is certainly many bad spies for every good spy.
So using this combo could be seen as a way to make playing Spy feel more balanced, since most spies will just die immediately after getting 1 or 2 kills.
Another concept bastardized by the insane ratio of good to bad spies. I used to know a spy man when I was getting into matchmaking in TF2 back in 2019, and he fucking dominated with the Big Earner, Dead Ringer, and Stock Revolver. Along with him, I know many spies that prefer Stock over the other knives, and Diamondback, Dead Ringer, and Your Eternal Reward is a killstreak machine of a loadout. Any knife, any watch, any revolver works. It just takes skill and knowledge to avoid the get a kill and then die stage of learning spy. And there are way more newbie spies in casual than there are experienced spies. Again, I'm really trying my hardest not to sound like a complete brick. I have zero ego, I'm just saying shit I know.
I've personally never seen anyone make a video on this specific nitpick before, or even discuss how Spy's array of disguises seem to commonly point towards one Boston-based target.
Unfortunately, the furthest it practically goes is the old Soundsmith clip I used.
Why? Why is he disguised as Scout? That's literally gonna prove my point for this video. We're literally like all engineers. What is he thinking?
The same reason there's a spy disguised as a spy when you guys don't have one. To dodge the giant amount of fucking sentries you must have had. In reality, you watched him run all the way up the stairs and only flamed at him when he sacked the sentry and jumped away, becoming the dominant thing in your vision. And with that, the video comes to an end. Nice cover at the end, by the way. I hope I was able to shed some light on this issue, and once again, huge kudos to H Trademark for making this video in the first place and being receptive to critique with this follow-up video and allowing me to make this video where I inadvertently call him out on shit that he probably has since been accustomed to. And thank you for watching. This, besides my How to TF2 video, is only the second of my attempts at a bigger, more concept-focused video, as I normally just do clip dumps and frag videos. Anyway, subscribe, or shit, I don't know.